So thank you all for joining this session today, which is labelled How to Create a Pelvis Session Using VERT. And it's actually going to be run by Avina Shah. Unfortunately, Angela Williams, who also helps put these sessions together, is unwell today. So Avina's going to be running that session herself. And one second, Avina, can I just ask you to unmute yours? Because it's currently coming up with call-in number. So whichever number you are, if you can scroll to the top and press unmute, that'd be great. So I'm going to give a quick introduction before we pass over to Avina. So I just wanted to talk to you about the sessions today. So as I mentioned before, this is the VERT 3.1 sessions that have been created to go hand in hand with the new release of the VERT software. And this is your chance really to meet the creators and to understand how these sessions were put together. So before I officially hand over to Avina, Avina, if you don't know, is the Clinical Learning Facilitator at Mount Vernon Hospital, which is just outside the UK. And Avina is actually going to talk to you about a collaboration that has been put together with Virtual and the hospital. And I want you just to bear in mind as we go through this that any collaboration projects that are available between that you come up with, or if you have any ideas for session, Virtual are always willing to kind of put together some collaboration with you guys. Avina, are you there?
I'm there. I'm here, yes.
Oh, brilliant. Okay.
I don't know if I managed to mute it though, Tom.
I'm just going to see, because everyone's called call in, so are you still there?
Yes.
And now?
Yeah.
Okay, I think I've got you. Brilliant.
Okay,
okay, great stuff. So yeah, I wanted just to kind of introduce this session. What we're going to do to start with, we're going to have a quick introduction from Avina about the session, how that was put together, the overview, and then these sessions, they actually come as part of the 3.1 download, and there is a little bit of setting up that is required with those. So I think at that point, Avina's going to pass back over to me. I'm going to explain how you can put these sessions onto your PC and how you can load these up. Then I'll actually pass back over to Avina, who will then work through the Cervix session, which is what she created. And then we'll kind of look at some of the barriers and some of the challenges that were faced, and then we'll have a little Q&A at the end and talk about the evaluation procedure that they did and how they've actually been accepted to go to Estro to talk about this. So we'll talk about that at the end also. So I'm going to pass over to Avina now.
Thank you, Tom. Hello, everyone, and I'm very excited to do this today, albeit a little bit scared doing it by myself, as Angela and I always run these sessions together. But anyway, here goes. I'm just going to take control from Tom. You can see on your screen, we've got a little short PowerPoint presentation. And I'm just going to run through first the background of how we came to do this project. Tom, can I control? Oh, yes, I can. Yeah.
Sure. Yeah.
So, as Tom mentioned, this was a collaboration with Virtual. And the reason why we created both the prostate and cervix CPD workbooks was because we felt there was a real need in the department for some revision of anatomy and things related to these sites. And also there was a lot going on with our prostate patients in terms of fiducial markers, CBCT, OBIs, and also because there's such a high turnover and fluidity with the technology, we felt it was important to produce a package that would help everybody coming through the door. So we then also created the cervix one as an addition to it. Going forward, we are planning on producing some more. One of the key things that came out from some of our research prior to setting up this project was the theoretical knowledge and for the technical implementation. And I'm sure you guys, if you're working with students or staff, if they've been qualified for a while, a lot of the anatomy is getting forgotten. So we felt it really important to include that. But alongside that, a lot of the problem-solving skills that were required at the front end now with imaging is what we wanted to incorporate. So that's how, briefly, how this came about in conjunction with, and then we had the discussions with Virtual to develop these further, which they then included in their next, the version 3.1. So I'm going to hand over to Tom now, who will talk through a little bit about the virtual presenter and how that works. So over to you, Tom.
Thank you. That's right. So I'm going to move into Vert now, and we already have loaded up the session that Avina's going to talk about, which is the Cervix session. But I thought it only right to kind of show you how to put this session about. So you can actually see here on the Cervix session that we have the virtual presenter loaded up. And I thought it was a kind of timely place to be able to do a quick refresher on the virtual presenter. Now, all of you will have received these training materials as part of your 3.1 download. And really, you need to kind of put these together to be able to view them in the right way. So I'm going to show you how to do that. Once you have your 3.1 training materials disk, if you transfer across your prostate and cervix session, which is in a subfolder on the training materials desk, if you then transfer that across to your PC device, wherever you want to put it, and make sure it's in a kind of stored location, then you can go about setting up that patient. So I'm going to do this with the prostate patient to start with. So if you go to File and Import the patient. So for the purpose of this, I put the prostate session on the desktop. So you can see each here, the prostate and the cervix session. And what they do, they come with 4 subfolders, and they're both in the same format. So once you've watched one here, you'll be able to set up the other session in the same way. So the first folder is actually the DICOM patient, and you can just load that in. And this is why it's good to remember to put this in a location somewhere on your desktop that you can remember where it is. Once you've then loaded that in, you can bring in your virtual presenter. So if you're going to go to View and Virtual Presenter and Open, and you're going to have to actually navigate back to where that folder is. And again, it's on the desktop for me. And you can see the prostate session, and it's actually the slideshow file, the second folder down, which you can then insert. You'll notice with the virtual presenter here, it has some numbers next to it, and at the moment those don't correspond, there's some numbers missing. And if we actually move back to the cervix session, you can see that those are augmented with some JPEG images, some screenshots. So to get those, you actually then have to go to your Insert Picture, and then again back to the same place where we were before, the prostate session. And then it's the actual third folder down, the VP pictures, and then you can just insert those into the virtual presenter. And then it's just a case of reordering these so they're in the correct order. It'll just take me a little minute there. And then once you're actually happy with that, and the patient is in the same place on the PC and you're not going to move it around, then you can actually save it. You can call it. You can see I've already done this before, so I'm going to call it prostate session 1. And then once you've saved it, next time you bring this patient in, all you'll have to do is open slideshow, and it'll come up with your virtual presenter with the pictures in the correct order. And then you have that session ready to go. Now, if you remember, there was a 4th folder, which I'm just going to show you here. So if I go back to the desktop and the prostate, there was a 4th folder, and this contains all your workbooks. And this is what Avina's going to talk through. She's going to talk through now the virtual presenter slides, and then also how the workbooks relate to these. So that was the example for the prostate. There is actually, with your training materials CD, a PDF, and this actually documents how to do everything that I've just talk through. And Andrea, yeah, definitely, just to answer your question there, I will definitely be sending out this presentation for future reference, so you can always refer back to this WebEx too if you need a little kind of recap. And as you can see on this, it talks about all the slides and the numbers, and also this is quite handy where each slide relates to each section in the workbook. Okay, so I'm going to close that down and move back to the Cervix session and hand back over to Avina, who's going to tell you how she put these together and run through the session with you. Okay, Avina?
Yeah, thanks, Tom.
No problem.
Okay, just to clarify, these sessions were developed with staff in mind. However, it can be run with the students as well, which we have done here as well for our second and third years. And we've also run it for doctors and physicists as well, just partly because we wanted to get the statistics for estro. But it has worked for all groups quite well, with a few tweaks for each group, but overall it's worked very well. So just to add that in. Okay. I'm not sure how many of you have used this at all or looked at it, but I'll try and run through it as best as I can in the time frame we have. So we first looked at what we needed, as I discussed before, and anatomy was certainly a refresher that everyone felt they needed, and some of it was based on other VERT training sessions we've done. And then we've also, in both the sessions, the prostate and cervix, we've done some plan comparisons. So plans such as conventional plans, rapid arc plans, and IMRT plans. And we've also focused on using those plans and how how you make those decisions to decide on which is the best plan. So using DVHs, CBCT images, and the plans. And then, of course, lastly, we've also added to it the CPD questions for further research and further knowledge if people require it. So it covers a whole lot of things in this that will be useful for most staff groups as well. So I'm just going to bring up the workbooks so I can run it through with you. Tom, have I got the workbooks up?
Yeah, that's right. You're just on them there, so if you can just...
That's the...
Yeah, do you want me to bring it up for you?
Please.
1 second. There you go. So that's the overview.
So what we've done, we've created an overview session, and this document allows the facilitator to present this with the whole document and the answers in it. And then with that, there's also a workbook for whoever is participating in the session, and that has just got the boxes or the if I scroll down, I'll show you what I mean. These boxes in it that without the answers for those participating in the workbook. We've also got another. So there are 3 documents altogether, and the last document just purely allows the facilitator to run through the session without the overview. So if you're looking at this first page, and it also explains how you get into the cervix. And then I'm going to talk about the cervix as I've created this one, but the prostate one is very similar. How you get into that VERT session, and with that, if I go back. So how do I go back to the?
There you go.
Yeah. So if I click on slide 1 and relate it then back to the workbook, as you can see, it says on the box their color on one side and what structure it is. Of course, in the workbooks that the participants have, they have to fill out what structures they are in relation to this slide. And the workbook works like that throughout. So if I bring up another slide. Okay, so as you can see here on this slide, there are three pictures of 3 different plans. And in relation to the workbook again, if I go back to the workbook, I'll show you that in a minute. And my Cervix workbook has got a little bit of background in terms of the anatomy, which they have to label, nodes, and staging before they work with the workbook. So you could even give this to them prior to them attending the session. So then all you have to do is then the vert element of it. And so under the section 2, so it's divided up into 3 sections, and the second section is related to all the technique side of things. And there are boxes in which they need to then put down what the pros and cons are of each of those techniques. So each of those plans. And with those plans comes with a different way of showing it using vert. And with each of these, what we have to do is also use something called paint. You may have heard of that, to take the pictures of and then put this into a PowerPoint to add it to vert as a JPEG. And what we also did is presented DVHs for each of them. And with all this information, including the plans, including the DVHs and CBCTs, they then had to write in the workbook what the pros and cons are and which plan, critically analyze everything in conjunction with what you do in your own departments, and to work out what the best plan would be. And that was the idea behind producing this. We also then did some problem scenarios. So if I just show you this slide 3 and slide 4, and if you look at it carefully, I'll flip from one to the other so you notice what happens. So that slide, so on vert obviously it's a little bit quicker than on here, and it shows it a lot easier. I'll just see if it works. This is slide 3. Sorry, it is a bit slow in moving. Oh, if that worked or not. Tom, I don't know if that one worked, but I'm going to...
I think so. You can see the jaws moving slightly there.
Yeah, it's much more clearer on vert. You can see the real difference in the movement. And what we were trying to demonstrate is when you have a movement and you make a call, if you have a shift of, if you have a difference of 0.5 or 1 centimeter, what it does to the volume, what it does to the organs of risk. Bearing in mind, you would have to explain in this case, it is an IMRT plan, and of course the image does not look like this because it's moving, and what that does to the patient and the organs at risk, and base that to aid your discussions around any problem-solving issues you have. So I've done that with different supinenf moves and post moves, and then what we've done is showed different CBCT images of bladder and rectum, if there's gas, if there's a large bowel, or the uterus position, to show what issues can occur, and to again aid the discussion around, all right, well, what you notice, and what could you do about it? If there was anything you could do, what would you do? And those sort of discussions. And that you could base on around your own techniques and your own protocols. So it's very useful. All of these have been very useful in aiding those discussions and getting people to think about what the need is for images and why they need them and what the impact it has. And then following all of that, if we go back to the workbook, so the treatment scenarios, that was what I was showing you, those slides that move supinenf and post. And there's a section where they can write their answers down in relation to their own department protocols and what they've learned, or any other articles they may have read, to critically analyze this. And the idea behind all of this is also that it should span all your grades, those with less experience as well as those with quite a lot of experience, to be able to answer some of these questions. And then lastly, in our fourth section, we've got the CPD questions. And again, you could make up these questions however way you wish to, but we've kind of included as much as possible, with some answers to be done by the participant in terms of their own protocols, side effects, what your department has to offer in terms of support, information, and your own protocols as well. So that's, in a nutshell, what we've done with the workbooks. Angela's workbooks is very similar to this. In the prostate one, there isn't as much nodal stuff or staging, but she has got quite a lot on anatomy and the problem solving and the technique review and CPD questions as well. Sorry, for those of you who may be unfamiliar with the word CPD, it's for continual professional development, or something equivalent you may call it in your department. I think from my end I hope that's helped. I'll pass you, and
that's great. Thanks, Avina.
Is there any questions before I go on to the barriers?
No, I think it might be useful. I'm going to just navigate back to the workbook that the people undertaking the session actually have to work through, just to kind of reinforce your point there, because you went through really well the facilitator's book, but just to kind of reinforce that there is an answer book that people do fill in, and just to kind of show people that you have these blank numbers for the staging and then the table with bits missing and so on.
Yeah, thank you, Tom.
We've got a question from David.
Uh-huh.
Just wait for that to come through. Okay, can you see that, Avina, there, that question that's come through from David? I'll read it out to you. It says, do you teach your students anatomy as well, or do you have positions to do that?
Not per se, not in the clinical setting. That they would have come equipped with that from the university, and all we are doing is reinforcing it. So some of this work they would have done before they come to the work session and fill out, and then we go through anything that they haven't filled out or are unaware of. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, that's a thumbs up from David.
Brilliant.
Great stuff. I think that was really great, a kind of overview there, and a really exciting session that goes through absolutely everything. So the anatomy right through to the treatments and the different treatment scenarios, and then a whole host of CPD questions that can then be changed and altered depending on the departmental protocols. Can you, I think it'd be really good to kind of talk about the barriers and things that you came up against there, Avina.
Okay. Was there another question I noticed? No?
Oh, yeah. Let's see. So David, again, just saying there, so you make a kind of revision about the anatomy before you start with the vert sessions.
Yes, because over here I'm very time limited, and also the availability of our vert room is also an issue. So we try and do it a little bit prior to the session, and also it gives the students a chance to have a bit of revision themselves, because it is always useful when they come to the session a little bit armed and not with knowledge. So it does help from what we've found. Is that okay?
That's, yeah, another thumbs up there, which is good.
Great. Does anyone else have any? Oh, yes.
Okay, so we teach anatomy in year 1, but they don't see the relevance of it until their placement, which comes after the anatomy module. So we find these refreshers really valuable. That's really great feedback there from Andrea, I think.
Oh, thank you. Yes, yes, that's good. It is always, yeah. The students, even though they may have not covered everything, they still find it very valuable. And to be able to also see the links between what they've learned at uni and what they're doing in practice. Shall I carry on with the barriers?
Yeah, please do.
Okay. So of course, am I in control?
Yeah, it should be.
Yeah. As you can see on your screens on the presentation, these were some of our barriers, and I suppose the biggest barrier we had was the time. Because partly we had to rely on other people, for example, our physicists and our IT personnel to help us with finding the right patients. Then also with the 3 plans, because we only had one kind of plan, so to create 3 different plans as well. And the time it's taken us to develop the whole of the workbook, and of course, we are not on the floor all the time, therefore our own knowledge had to be updated. And just to bearing in mind, our own normal workload as well, so the time element took a while. And I think I would have to say, Angie and I probably spent approximately 30 hours each on the workbooks to develop it. And then we also had formatting issues, which virtual really helped us with in setting it all up, because your IT skills as well need to be quite good as well. We were fortunate in that our IT personnel and physicists and other radiographers were very, very helpful to us. But it was very time consuming. But once it's set up, now that we've done the 2, it's very now easier. We've got the template, and I'm sure hopefully it will be useful to all of you. You've got the template there, is then to be able to set up more sessions on different sites. We're fortunate as well in that our patients had, in our consent forms, already consented for us to use the information anonymized. So that was good as well. So again, I suppose it really very much depends on your own department, of what your resources are and personnel that are available. So, but these were certainly our barriers that we faced. It has been a bit of a journey, a very good one, I might say, and we learned a lot in doing this. And everybody that we have presented it to, including our oncologists and SPRs, our senior registrars and doctors, have found it really, really useful, because you have to remember a lot of our doctors also don't even see, I don't know if it's the same everywhere else, but they don't tend to see a radiotherapy machine, and so found some of it very, very useful. Is that okay, Tom?
That's perfect. Thank you very much for that, Avina. And I just want to touch back on the point that I made before, that it has been an ongoing collaboration between Mount Vernon and especially Angela and Avina and ourselves at Virtual. And these are the kind of things that we want to be doing, is that we want to be creating these sessions for people that people can then take and adapt or take and use directly. And this is the exact way to use these sessions, either directly or indirectly, to benefit your own practice, and that's the idea. And we are very open to working with sites collaboratively to create any more future materials going forward.
Just one thing to add is that we also put it on our laptop as well, but it does mean with the laptop, if you wanted to do it on the laptop, you have to re-import and redo everything on the laptop. You can't just transfer it from Virt. So that was an added time that we have to use as well. But those of you who use the laptops, it's also useful. It can be done on that too.
Absolutely, and I think again that goes back to one of the barriers with the virtual presenter, is that unfortunately you have to set up the session yourself because of the nature of the virtual presenter. You have to load in those slides, you have to load in those JPEGs, and you have to reorder them and put them in the right position. So that is why we kind of wanted to go through that just at the start of this overview, just so everyone kind of can have that background. That's great. So I think what I'm going to do, I'm just going to steal that control back there, Avina, and then I'm going to unmute everybody, so everyone's got a free chance just to chat away and have a talk, and if there are any questions that people want to ask, then feel free to shout out and to ask away. Is there anything from anyone? That anyone has anything for Avina? Either about the sessions?
Thank you, really, to Avina. Hi, Avina. It's Cindy.
Hey, Cindy. How are you?
Good. Haven't seen you for ages, but yes, that was very good. Thank you.
Thanks, Cindy.
This is Carly and Aaron. I just wanted to say thank you. That's a lot of work, and we really appreciate you sharing this. We can see it going to be very useful for us. So we appreciate all the hard work that you've done.
Oh, thank you. It was very kind of you. Thank you. Yes, we do hope it will be very useful to everyone, because it is a lot of work involved, and we do hope that you guys around the world can use this to produce things like this, which are so useful. And just to say as well for everybody, I mean, we've got our contact details up there on the screen, and you're more than welcome to get in touch with us once you start using it, or prior to it, if you have any questions.
That's a really good point, actually, Avina. There is going to be a survey sent out, maybe kind of months down the line when people have had a bit more time to get to grips with these sessions, because there is scope, and we have had some discussions over the last couple of weeks about some more collaboration sessions that are going to be created between Mount Vernon and ourselves. And it's always good to have some feedback of how you guys got on with these, so we can obviously continue making improvements on those. So please engage with the sessions and please use them going forward.
I'm certainly quite keen to try and use these sessions at UE. We've just revalidated our program, and we've been making much more use of VERT and of our new Eclipse planning system here for our first years. I can just really see how this would build on that knowledge in year 2, and I think we've got an ideal opportunity to try this with our year 2 students. So I shall certainly be putting this to my team to have a go at one of these sessions and see how useful they are. So I'd just like to echo everybody's thanks.
Oh, you're welcome, Andrea. Thank you. And yes, please do let us know how you get on with it, and whether it was easy to follow and easy to facilitate as well. We've run it with our 2nd and 3rd year students, and they've found it very, very useful.
Thank you.
I think, Avina, it'd be nice also to kind of talk to everyone about what's happened with the Estro submission, because I think you've been really successful with that. It's good to kind of share how you've found that and how you've got on.
Oh gosh, well, that's a very exciting element of all of this. We presented an abstract about our workbooks to Estro, which was accepted, and we're going to present there in Estro this year. And that's one of the reasons probably why at the moment I don't know, we can't share all the evaluations with you, because until we complete it with Estro, but we'll be happy to do that later on. But yeah, it's a very exciting and nerve-wracking, I should say, as well, piece of work that'll happen.
We're all very excited about that. It's going to be a good event.
Yeah.
Great stuff. So I'm just going to kind of open it out to everyone finally before we kind of close this and finish this, if there are any other questions that people want to ask, or if not. And like I said, there's always the option to email myself or the team at Virtual, but more importantly, if you feel like you have any questions regarding the sessions, you can always get in touch with Avina or Angela on the email addresses there.
Avina, can I ask, how long would you normally allow for a session like this? We've got a cohort of 25 students here. How long should I allow if I wanted to book a session to go through one of these workbooks with my students and get their opinions?
So we, as I said, some of this work they can do prior to the sessions, all the anatomy, etc. So the actual VERT session we run for an hour.
Okay, thank you.
I think that also kind of fired something off in my mind there is that when we've kind of spoke about these sessions, they're quite versatile in the way that you can use them. It doesn't have to be a you can use it as a one-on-one, or you can use it in a group discussion, or you can use it in a group where they actually have the answer sheets in front of them and they're doing it themselves. So again, like we mentioned before, where you are able to adapt the sessions, you can also adapt the way that you present the sessions.
Yeah, we've tried to set it up such that even the participant can go through the workbook by using Word themselves, if that's something that you would consider.
I guess I was probably thinking more of doing this as a group to begin with, to gauge the students' opinions on how useful they found the workbook in its current form, doing it as a sort of supplementary thing first time round, partly for us to test our skills at using it, and partly to gauge the students' opinion, and then if we find it successful, we could probably adapt depending on their feedback, I think.
Yeah, no, that sounds quite reasonable. That's good. Yeah, I mean, we've only run it as group sessions so far, actually, as well.
Yeah.
Excellent. Well, I think we'll kind of leave it there. We've been going for the last 50 minutes, but it's only but like 10 to me. But if we have any other questions, and like I said before, feel free to email. And thank you all for joining today. Oh, sorry, David, just a quick question before we go.
Yeah.
Hi, I have one further question. If you do hands-on training like the electron field setup technique or stuff like that, with how many students do you do that?
Generally,
one-to-one, or?
We have around 10 in a year, so our maximum would be 10 students that we are in the clinical setting.
Yeah. So you have a group of 10 students and you teach them with Word. Okay.
Yes.
Thank you.
We would tend to teach a group of 25 students. We'd divide them into 4, so we would teach the theory of what they're supposed to be doing as a whole class, and then we would divide them into groups of about 6 or 7 students and work with a small group on VERT at the university.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, David. Okay. Well, I'll bring that to a close. I'll stop the recording there.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.